Good morning, YouTube. I have a ravishing topic today. It's all about the topic of wrestling. What did I learn from wrestling? Now, it's not about what did I learn from wrestling. It's the experience I got from wrestling and why I recognize wrestling as a sport over time. I did, appreciate it at first because people say sports is what you make them to be. Well, I've been through an experience where sports are completely and totally shit. I've had people defeat the purpose of sports in front of my face, especially with a gang. I had a very, mixed feeling with wrestling across the years because it was a sport that I could have been good at, that I didn't care about, but something that really did make a difference at the time. I made a big difference in life now that I think about it. Now, in the long run, my teacher used to give me a speech that that's what sports teach you, but what if I told you this is something that my teacher couldn't teach? Because he was comparing wrestling to other sports, and I was comparing wrestling to life. This is incorporating three of one of my favorite stories of life. One, The Blind Wrestler, one of my favorite Disney movies. Two, an episode of Batman Beyond that I couldn't find on YouTube. What is wrestling? Wrestling is a personal sport. Also a sport for personal development. One thing I noticed about wrestling is during the time period, kept on trying to shove philosophies down my throat. Wrestling's a good sport, you're just not trying. Sports are good in general, you're just taking it the wrong way. When in actuality, that's all bullshit. All BS. I don't need to go into detail about why it's bullshit. Let me tell you who I was in high school. I was Yusuke Urameshi on the football team. I can't catch a football, but I can rock your ass in a fight, and that counts for a lot. You best believe people could create gangs, people could segregate you, people could do a whole lot based on the fact that you can't catch a football alone. Or if you can't catch a football, but you can pull a girl. Because I pulled all my freshman year, and they did everything to keep me away from her, and I didn't even play sports. I played football that I sucked at, and I started wrestling right afterwards. I didn't need to play sports because I was already good at multiple hobbies like dancing and making animated music videos. I grew up to recognize why wrestling wasn't necessary, but now I look back at it, I'm like, I like that experience, not because of how I played it, but I learned out of life, but what I did learn from the sport, but what I learned from separating myself from the sport. Start off with, my baby mama Rihanna, before she was my baby mama, which she was just probably using for clout. He copied the Prince of Tennis videos. You know where you think you can go Super Saiyan? I had a hot girl who community college. She wanted to hop on the bandwagon where I became a famous rapper. What he did was he got somebody to fuck up, the telephone wires of fucking antennas and shit, and she made it look like a tennis racket, and she tried too hard, Lily, to pretend to be a Prince of Tennis in school. She's like, you wanna play tennis? You wanna play tennis? And everybody knew it was off my fucking YouTube video. This is before I had, over 1,000 subs. This is why I just had 300, but nothing but stalkers. And she taught me a whole lot about society. Like, you see how nobody puts her under pressure. You see how everybody else is like really, really full of shit. You see how like they're not getting her ass to copy her cartoon just because he's fucking hot. That's the moral behind the story. But what if I told you it goes a little bit more in depth? And it's because they held on to that, and because they didn't criticize her is why I learned there was no lesson that they were shoving down my throat through wrestling, but it's something that I learned from wrestling. I saw a contradiction on top of contradiction on top of contradiction. When people told me to play a sport, they told me I was gonna gain better character, that I was gonna be better discipline. And you know what they told me, Mr. Player told me? It's the fact that you're doing something on a schedule. You're looking at your fact you're getting physically fit, you're doing this and that, you look at all these fucking benefits you could be getting at playing a sport, or you can fucking say that it's time consuming. But look, or if it's time consuming, look what happens when you just focus on your anime alone, but sports made no fucking difference. You know why? Because I was getting better and better at wrestling, and it didn't mean shit because I was still at social disadvantage. I was still in special ed. I still didn't have a girlfriend, so it didn't matter what I accomplished. If I won a match, it didn't mean shit because I didn't put enough work into wrestling. So guess when the devil's in my fucking head saying this, and that. So wrestling's the kind of sport where I got this idea is it's a sport that you can actually fight. It's a fighting sport. So me being an anime fan, it gave me a lot of fucking room. The devil was in my head. Oh, you want to fight so badly? Why don't you go all out in wrestling, Eris? Well, like, wrestling is gay. My dick's off on my opponent and shit, and the devil is all like, Lily, you're calling wrestling gay when you're getting rejected by every girl in school. Crazy. You want to be on that anime shit, Eric, where it finally comes down to your fight, you make excuses for yourself. Lily, you're not Lily having a proper diet, you're not doing this, that, you're complaining, and then you fall back on Cartoon Network, and then you're crying to your fucking mom, I want people to accept me, I want people to accept me. Well, they should accept me for who the fuck I am. I don't just like anime, I dance, I do this and that. It's literally the fact that it wasn't sports, it's that the people who I played with is gay, but it's also how people are raised in America in general, just fucking respectful. So it started where I recognized that I was getting better, but it didn't mean shit because I got rejected by Ivy on the dance floor by Lily the same time I was in wrestling, so it didn't mean shit. Lily, I was wrestling, proper wrestling, and didn't mean shit because Lily Ben quit the very first week of wrestling, and I kept on doing wrestling, so it didn't mean shit. There was one dual meet when we had our first dual meet when we faced another school in a tournament where my team goes up against your team. I almost won my first match, and the only person who won was a tall-ass Indian guy named Josh. And Josh was physically fit. Josh had a six-pack, but he had a six-pack due to coming from a good family and due to having a strict diet. So you know how Indians have a strict Indian diet? Josh was really, really raw wrestling because he was tall. He was like 6'1", but he had a build like me. So yeah, six-pack, really, really strong. He had the edge over his opponent. Me, I always had interesting, entertaining matches because I would always pin my opponent because I'd always be at a significant level of strength. Where it came to breath control, endurance, stamina, I fell flat, but I always gave an entertaining show. I would pin the guy, he would come back up, but they would wrestle around for at least 3 fucking rounds, then he'll pin me at the end. I'm like, this is fucking gay. I still don't have a fucking girlfriend. And this is the thing about fucking sports in real life. On the outside, they see me an epic ass match, and I see me, of course I'm fucking physically fit. I'm fucking black. I actually gain muscle better than any fucking buddy. I should already have a fucking girlfriend right now. This is fucking cheap. Lily, I was thinking about playing Naruto Ultimate Ninja Storm in fucking practice. This isn't doing anything for me. What happened to all these talks about sports and trying to change your life and shit? Do you know why? What you see is what you get. They're overhyping it specifically for me to play. That's to show you how I fucking look in tights. Want me to play sports and change who I am as a person? You just want me to play sports because I look good playing them. And the world is that cruel, and the world is that fucked up, and Brianna is proof of that. Making all those comparisons, this is how wrestling got in my head, but this is why it didn't make a fucking difference. I literally had an argument with my friend Lily because I couldn't smoke because I got caught up in school for smoking and shit. So all smoker Robert, all like Lily. So why do you smoke and shit like that? Because I told him that life sucks. He was trying to cheer me up. He's like, because I have nothing better to do. I'm all like, you're Alec, I have something better to do. He's like, what? You have wrestling? I'm like, I don't like wrestling. I was listening to fucking T-Pain Tips with Cindy Ortega right before my dual meet when I had my intense ass match, and her brother was Jason Ortega. So Jason Ortega was a sophomore when I was a freshman. So when it came down to my sophomore in wrestling, he was a part of the captain's team. And so I ended up squaring off with Jason and shit, and I was arm tied with him, and Jason's really, really strong, and I'm really, so I was like, 120, he was kind of like 130, so it was similar. I trained with Wesley Passman, a Screamo guy that listens to Dance Gavin Dance. Every time I squared up for him, he told me I was getting really, really better. Like, I was getting depressed and shit like that. And I was texting Wesley, like, Wesley, am I getting better after training? He's like, yes. It was over, because when I was in the arm tie with Jason, he's like, you're getting stronger. And then in my head, I'm like, I don't feel like I'm getting stronger. That's how you know you put somebody through mental distress. So when it came down to the point where wrestling was such a contradiction, got down to the time where I was smoking a Black and Mild with Robert. Not fucking marijuana, but actual fucking tobacco with Robert. We smoked 2 Black and Milds before I had a tournament the next day. And guess what? I came second place in the tournament. Wrestling literally tries to put this bullshit mentality. Well, maybe if you did smoke that Black and Mild, you were turned out first. Bullshit. Bullshit on top of bullshit on top of bullshit. People criticize me ever since eating Taco Bell right before our match. Just saying, and then I end up winning that match. You see, it meant nothing in wrestling. The up and downs were fucking tremendously fucking wrong in every way, shape, or form. It was fucking horrible. You don't know what they fucking did to me. First, they took down my fucking shorts, and then they took down my underwear. I'm like, what the fuck is wrong with you? And they started making fun of me, like, and Dewey was like, so Jason had a conversation about Lily masturbating before fucking practice. He's all like, hey, I can tell you, everybody on this fucking team masturbates, including Nui. So if you don't know who Nui is the Asian girl I was spamming in the video. I got with her when I was older. Came down to a school dance where I was the only one willing to ask her if you're willing to dance. So wrestling was full of shit. I did that knowing that she brought her boyfriend, okay? Wrestling taught me a whole lot about perspective. Like, there was a senior where I was a freshman, and that senior's name was Christine, and she was super light, like Asian, super fine, really flexible and shit, and she was really manhandling me every single time, because really, it was a tier system, and she was a senior in wrestling, so she really whooped my ass every single time, but she was a girl, but I wasn't fucking, caring, because I look at it like, no, she's a fucking senior, she's a girl, she's stronger than me. And you know what they did? They started making fun of me, like Ernst got Boulder when he was wrestling Christine. Now that I look back at it, it wasn't the experience in wrestling that made me change. It was literally me looking back at it as an adult, recognizing that it was an individual sport for me, living an individual life. Like, this shit doesn't apply to me. That's what sports are there for. Sports are made to give you multiple perspectives. Like, yo, we could watch this game, that game. Like, yo, you can take it this way. You could take it as, fucking this and that. No, wrestling didn't do shit for me, but expose human nature. It was nothing like Mr. Pleasure was talking about. Well, you can look at it this way, you can look at it that way. Now that I look at it, now that I'm older, now I put all the pieces together, you can only look at it one way. But guess what? If I never played it, I wouldn't have been able to make all those comparisons. I wouldn't be able to understand why it was and wasn't worth it. It taught me a whole lot about life, like how sports are supposed to. You know what that means? That means I had sport mentality outside of it when everybody quit. That means I'm the only one who truly took sports what they truly mean instead of playing them just to fit in. Everything that Mr. Pleasure said came out to be true. You know what? Mr. Pleasure coaches baseball, basketball, football. Shows you why it was an individual sport and why it was a part of my individual journey. Because when I look back at it, I had all the benefits of a sport after I separated myself from a sport. What I had to do is I had to compare wrestling to real life instead of comparing it to other sports. I couldn't take what they said into consideration, but I get it now. Not the fact that it keeps me more physically fit, it's not the fact that I'm doing an activity. It's the fact that it showed me the ups and downs of what people are willing to resort to, really what people are willing to drop, really how much people are willing to drop their pride in order to prove a point, in order to prove a social justice. Me why I benefited from it, because even though I didn't like something, I stuck with it and I didn't have support like other people. This video symbolizes why this is your own journey. I learned from wrestling, from Nui, me getting better, and it's not being shit. It just means that I was way better than them the whole time. There was this one time where I went to elementary school where I pretended to be blind because of that stupid Disney movie, The Blind Wrestler. Like literally, I watched it one day and then I pretended to be blind in school, and then April was all like, Eris, are you blind again? Told me the complexities of the situation that can't be simplified by her friend. It all goes back to my original point. The Batman Beyond episode, it's already established that Terry McGinnis is a street punk. So when he tries out wrestling in the actual cartoon Batman Beyond, always ruined never the legendary punch sign. He broke the rules on purpose because he knew it wasn't worth it. McGinnis, you punch first. You're out.